Dennis, we'll go straight to the vaccine issue. I think it's an issue where the Prime Minister is dealing with supply constraints, obviously, but there's some political headwinds here. He's now no longer running with vaccination targets. How do you think this is going to play out?
Well, look, I think that there was probably a mistake in the beginning to start to set targets. I can understand why the Prime Minister did and the government did. They wanted to give people hope that the vaccines would be coming and that they would be widespread. Let's not forget that the government assumed there would be a vaccination starting in the March quarter in the last budget. So this was a big assumption that they did. It came true. Vaccinations have started. I think the trying to set high expectations, trying to give great hopes to people has actually damaged the government's impact on this. But let's keep a perspective. I think that Labor is likewise making a big mistake in jumping in and describing the vaccine rollout as a shambles, as a failure, as a complete failure from the beginning. And I think this is overcalling it. It's undermining confidence in the vaccine rollout. And I think that the success of the vaccine rollout will still depend on how people regard it towards the end of the year and what the economic impact is. I think too much is being made about the impact of international travel on the vaccine on international travel, and not enough looking at what the general economy is doing. And the signs are the general economy is actually doing better, much better than expected.
I couldn't agree more about the perspective point. I wrote about that yesterday in News Corp papers too, Dennis, and I think that people will judge the vaccine rollout perhaps by the end of the year. I think they all accept the borders are closed for this year by and large, and I think that's the test for the PM. Where will we be at Christmas time on the vaccine and on the economy? We can already see month by month things are starting to improve. So I think he shouldn't obsess about where he is at the moment on this. I think it's just head down, bum up, and focus on the budget and get all the other elements moving. I want to go to another issue. I picked this up today and I thought, come in, Spinner. Are we the taxpayer being taken for a ride here? Queensland Liberal MP Andrew Laming, we know that he's not going to contest the next election. He will resign or retire from Parliament. But there's reports that he's going to stand, however, for the LNP, regardless of whether he's actually intending to stay on in the Parliament. And that all comes down to the whole issue that if he renominates but gets knocked out in a pre-selection contest for his seat of Bowman, he will trigger then a $100,000 plus payment from the taxpayers if he's disendorsed by the LNP. Now, if he walks away gracefully and retires, it's a big deal for Andrew Laming, I know, but if he does all of that, he won't get the money. This is a shocker, Dennis Shanahan, if it's true. How much do we know?
Well, it is true. When an MP stands for pre-selection, that is the same as standing for election under the various pension and retirement regulations covering MPs. So if an MP stands at an election as the endorsed candidate or not as the endorsed candidate and loses the seat, that is a sitting MP, then that is deemed them not resigning or retiring, and that they are then given the benefit of actually having been effectively forcibly removed from their seat. And so for years they have been able to get longer pensions and higher payouts by contesting at an election. Now, the same is true of a pre-selection. If a sitting member is knocked off by his pre-selection group and can't stand as the endorsed candidate, it works the same way. So I wasn't surprised to see that Andrew Laming would be standing. It's not illegal. It's part of the system that has operated for a very long time, for decades and decades. And whenever you follow the dollars, you can tend to actually predict where someone's going to go. This has been an old trick played by a lot of people and a lot of parties in the past, as well as Senate, when you move away from the Senate and allow a part of your party to then take up an extended seat there. These are old tricks.
I'm hearing you, Dennis. I think it stinks, and I wonder if the LNP refused to accept his application for pre-selection, knowing that he's going to fail and that will trigger the payment. If the LNP perhaps didn't accept his application, then would this trigger the payment? Can the Prime Minister step in? Can someone reason with this bloke that he's leaving in a lot of disgrace at the moment? The last thing that the people of Bowman or any taxpayer wants to do is to hand him over more money. I think that's where, well, we'll leave it, but that's where I think the government's got to turn its attention because it won't go away. What did you make of Malcolm
I think just on that,
resuming...
Peter,
Yes.
On that, if the government or if the party says no, they deselect him, I suspect it'll have exactly the same effect. He's been forced out of the seat. So unless he resigns or retires, then whatever action is taken to stop him standing for election, then that will trigger the same benefits for him and any other MP.
All right, well, I would be getting legal advice on all of that. Dennis Jensen tried this trick as well. It's, yes, it's people of disgrace who tend to do it on the way out the back door.